Welcome back. There was some important aviation news this week. British oil and gas giant BP has decided to exit all of its aviation activities in South Africa, including refuelling planes at OR Tambo International Airport and other airports. It says this is simply as a result of BP's current global business strategy. To discuss, we're joined by aviation analyst Phuthego Mojapele. Thank you for being with us, Phuthego, again. How significant is this?
Well, BP is pulling out in South African market not only because their strategy to restructure and reposition themselves, but I think it's more to do with politics. As you know, that recently we had an issue of the Russian aircraft that was denied refueling here in South Africa. And I want to believe that the position that our country has taken at that particular time to make sure that they put our relationship between us and Russia, at the center of the discussion. I think it had a lot to do with that, but they released a statement where they did not necessarily put in that stance at the forefront. But at this stage, I do believe that politics might have played a role in them pulling out. But anyway, it's not anything.
Well, let's stop there, because there is speculation around what you're saying. The speculation is even higher because BP hasn't denied it, although, like you say, it's just issued a short statement saying this is part of its business strategy. But it wouldn't say if this is linked to Russia or not. Would this make BP the first investment casualty in South Africa due to our perceived relationship with Russia?
Well, I mean, the BP is playing more role in aviation here in South Africa, just on the aviation part, which is the part that I would be very much interested in on this discussion. However, we do have other players that have always wanted to enter the space, and I think it creates more opportunity for the local players to participate in this aviation business. And I think for us, more importantly, is that local players will come in and they will be given opportunity. Whether they've got experience or they don't have experience, I think it will be very much important for them to be awarded that opportunity to participate and start, playing a role in the aviation space. So whether it's Russia or not, I think we've got to be realistic about some of these issues, is that we need local players to play. Our aviation industry took a serious knock recently where we don't even have international players like an airline that does international. So it is important that, as locals, we are playing a role in that. Otherwise, we'll continue to give these multinational companies opportunity to run our own things that we can, as South Africans, are able to do.
Well, Petro is saying that it will step in the smaller airports. I don't know if all the plans are finalized, but do we have local players that can operate at the scale and volume of BP? Because we have seen fuel shortages at OR Tambo International recently. Does this increase that risk, at least in the short term?
Look, at the moment, Petro SA, it does service George and East London airports currently. They have stepped in when BP pulled out, and they were given opportunity to supply at George and East London. And as you know, Petro SA is in Mossel Bay, is very close to George Airport, and therefore I think it would have been very much reasonable for them to do that. But we do have capacity, Francis. I think South African companies, there's a lot of South African companies that are running fuel farms and that have always wanted to enter the market, but because of these international companies that have been dominating the market, airlines sign, contracts with BP from Britain, from Europe. When they come here, is the same extension of contracts that they have already signed up there, and also AXA for the fact that they have given them the opportunity to run. I mean, they've been running this whole thing on their own without AXA. But this time around, AXA will have a control or of what is going to be distributing to the aircrafts or airline. And I think that is important for us, for many players to be roped in and be able to participate.
Was that a change announced before BP pulled out? Could it have been a factor? So just to explain, right now BP would control the fuel and getting the fuel into the planes, but what you're explaining is that the airports company will now just get the fuel from BP or whoever, and it will control the operations that gets the fuel into the planes.
Yes. So currently what the situation is that the airplanes, the AXA has leased the fuel facility to BP. Now, meaning that the airport company does not have control. So the control it's with BP. Now, what is going to happen now is that the company that they're going to appoint is now going to be the one that distribute and run the fuel, which is Petro SA. Let's assume that it's Petro SA. Now, they are going to be the ones that are going to be running the fuel and run the whole conduit up until to the airplanes. And therefore, that would at least allow them to have control. Unlike now, if they don't want to refuel an aircraft that comes from Russia, they can't do that because AXA is not in control. And that can really cause diplomatic strains between South Africa and Russia if South Africa has a position. And secondly, let me just clarify this matter. The discussion between AXA and all other operators that have been running the fuel farm in our airport has started a long time ago, before Russia started in 2020. They made this presentation in 2020 at the Portfolio Committee on Transport in Parliament. And this is not new, and I just don't think that AXA should be drawn in here as them pulling them out. But this has always been there. Yeah. Our government has already been informed about this decision way back in 2020 before the COVID started.
All right, we've run out of time. Thank you very much, Phuthego Mojapele, aviation analyst. But just to add to that speculation, let me explain very quickly that 2 Russian planes could not get fuel because of sanctions recently, sometime last year. Now, Access has told Parliament, last month that it has a new refueling plan that will deal with a scenario where a sanctioned friend of the South African government needs servicing and refueling.